Hi, this is Dr. Robert Heller and my partner,
Lenny LaCour.
and this is our Rockin' Success podcast. We want to provide you with information to help you be more successful and enjoy it. Lenny, how did we get going here?
Well, since we met, we've been on a mission to help people understand people and position the right people together. My whole career has always been putting the right people in the room, the right people at the table, just by knowing different personalities and how they think.
I'm an industrial clinical psychologist, and I've been working with personalities my whole life. So, how do you put people in the right place?
Well, initially, I would put people in the right place just by knowing them.
Our core motivation analysis that we developed is to help individuals understand themselves, what they need to be successful, and to share that with other people so that there is that natural communication between the people. They understand each other and they know how to support and help each other, whether it's a manager, it's a spouse, whether it's a coworker.
The topic of today's conversation is people thrive when successful.
Lenny, that makes it sound so simple. Unfortunately, we know that it's not that simple. People need to know what kind of environment they work best in.
Some people are better in sales because they're outgoing, and some people are better in technology where they can just do their job and not deal with the day-to-day people except for the reporting issues. So it's all about letting people know who you are and then people accepting you for those factors.
I think that you're right, that people can use technology as a way of hiding. So a lot of times they don't get their needs met because they're not really sharing. And finding a vehicle to explain to people who they are will actually help them, not hurt them.
And then you can understand what their needs might be and have a conversation, a give and take.
So, if you have a system, which we do, and we could help you if you ask us to analyze and help put people together that function really, really well. So as a manager, as a coach, whatever your role is, there's a way of putting people together.
We're people helping people. One day I went to a reunion of sorts and met an old buddy of mine. He sat down next to me. He was like captain of the football team, so successful as I thought. And he turned to me and he looked at me and he said, "Do you know how lucky you are to love what you do in life, to go to work every day, to be passionate about the people that you meet and how to balance your life like that? I wish I could have something like that." And I was shocked because I thought everyone was happy when they chose their career and they went to work. So I asked him why. And he worked for a very prominent major corporation and financially was quite successful at that time. He just hated what he does. And I thought, why are you working in a place for monetary rewards where your life isn't balanced and it doesn't bring you any type of satisfaction? And he said to me, "Well, I'm happy a lot of the times, but then I grew to realize that he was never actually satisfied with what he was doing."
That's the amazing part, is that people think that a job title or what they do is going to make them satisfied and happy, but it doesn't. You got to understand your personality and what you do best. So you need a good fit between what you do and the culture that you work in, just as you're giving that example, Lenny.
I realize now personalities never actually change. Just like everybody remembers a little boy or girl or whoever they were when they were a toddler and how sweet and what their personality was and how they reacted to some things. And most people can look at people as an adult and still see that inside of them, because some people have been fortunate enough to be put in a situation through their personality style and what motivates them. They've been trained to use those motivations in the culture so that they appropriately fit on that team. How do you feel about that?
You know, it's so hard to convince people that their personalities don't change, but any parent knows that when they watch their kids growing up, that it's the same kid, but we educate them to think and be critical in their thinking, and we work on their behavior so that they're socialized, but that personality just doesn't change. So put the personality in the right place and you can thrive. That's, I think, our point, isn't it?
Yeah, I found that a major thing in life is that people are not good at asking what they need, the resources and the help that they need. They're
Right.
not great at communicating, sometimes because of their personality, if they're perhaps a shy.
Yeah, so shy people, for example, probably work better with fewer people around them and very clear structure or instructions. And then there's other people that are very good at communicating. So I guess part of it is, how do we create that flowing communication? How do we ask for help when we need it?
Be very direct with people, but to act with kindness and empathy as to who we're speaking to. And it's also important to create flowing communication within people, a two-way talk time that helps people understand who the other person is and what they need for communication purposes.
Mhm.
How do you feel are some of the best ways to deliver that communication in the workplace, Dr. Heller?
Well, I think as a manager is that you have to really show that you care about each individual's success, and that when you give that feedback, it's not to punish somebody or make them feel little. It's, I want you to succeed, and I'm going to identify areas that you may need to strengthen. And if I feel that the person is there for me, then I'm gung-ho. If I think that the person is trying to catch me being bad, then I really feel pretty miserable going home every night.
I believe that when we first met, there was a serious conversation of my dismay on what was going on in the workplace, where everyone would just be looking at their phones and not personally communicating. And I thought, well, that's a way to hide behind technology instead of utilizing technology to directly speak to the people. And I believe when we met, you had brought up the conversation about assessments. And then somehow in our conversation, we decided it was a good idea to create our own tool simply for the purpose of people telling you exactly who they are. And they could understand who you are. And they could
Yeah.
understand what their motivations were and how they think and act out on those thoughts. So I'm not really sure where I'm going to with this, Ari. So
Well,
step
I
right
think
in.
that if we could read each other's minds, life would be so much easier because it would be straightforward. But because we can't read each other's minds, if there is a tool, an assessment tool that will help, one is, how do you better understand yourself and what you need? And you could share it with another person of who you are and what you need, whether it's a coworker, a boss, or your loved one at home. It would be so much easier if you had a tool to really explain who you are, what you need, and where you want to go. Isn't that where we all want to be? We all want to be successful in life. Everybody wants their kids to be successful in life. Sometimes we just need tools to do that.
And that's why we created this core motivation analysis. It's a very simple way to create a two-way conversation. You really can't change who a person is, what their personality is, but you can work into what they need to for themselves so that they can be secure in their job or position and celebrate their success as they move
Exactly.
along ladders.
Right. So that's that continuous cycle of letting people know who you are, not being afraid of getting feedback, but everybody's moving toward feeling more successful.
Our analysis is not to test people, it's for people to tell you.
Right.
So if you try to change someone from the personality that they always have had, you're going to find that you're positioning people in different places, whether you're a coach or a consultant or a corporate administrator or manager, and you see them just standing there like deer in the headlights while you're speaking to them, you might pick up that you don't quite understand what's going on inside of their head.
Right.
And the great thing about it is it's a two-way conversation. It should never just be about you're the management and they're the person behind the scenes that's doing the job. It's the team.
You know how many companies I've worked with where they take their best salesperson and they make him the sales manager? It doesn't
Right.
always work. It's like you've got to understand what the strengths and the weaknesses of the individual are, is that if they're successful in sales, maybe that's what they should be doing. And another type of individual would be much better off as a manager. And how do you reposition people? It should be a two-way communication, as you're saying. It's not just, well, you're doing well in sales, let's make you the manager, make you responsible for 20 people, when that's not what you're good at. So yeah, I think looking at like the core motivation analysis will help a manager figure out, where do people fit? Let's look at this puzzle and work this out so that everybody feels successful.
We are basically the humans that have created a piece of technology to support our mission. And part of our mission, from my point, has always been to learn to listen from your heart, not always from your head. Because if you listen from your heart and you look people in the eyes and they tell you who they are, always remember what the first time they tell you that, because that's just who they are. So if you try and change that, you're just beating your head against a brick wall.
Exactly. That's what my father used to say. Don't hit your head against the wall. Choose things that you like and that you're good at, and success will follow. But if you're trying to, I wanted to be a chemist, bad choice for me. It just would have never worked.
Everyone is trying to figure out what's going on at the end of the road here, or what the new world is, or whatever you want to call it right now. But actually, it's going to be what we all make it out to be. And communication strategies will create a continuous cycle of improvement in your well-being.
Yeah, so jobs change, and even now, some people are going back to work and other people are going to stay at home and work. There's a certain personality that functions best at home. I can't tell you how many people that we're seeing that think they're hyperactive because they're at home. They don't have the same stimulation, and it's hard for them to concentrate on what they're supposed to do. Other people are just fine. Actually, they're very happy because they can structure their time, they get things done, and determining who fits where, I know something we can do.
So coming from the hospitality industry, I have a very serious question for you, because it's always been an issue of who works in the front of the house and who should work in the back of the house. To me, it's the same as who can work better remotely and who can work better in a team environment, and who needs that. So could you just toss out a few personalities that are actually in the front of the house?
People who like interacting with people, people who, not just from a personality, but are extroverted, which all personality tests talk about, but people who are sociable, people who want to connect with others on a long-term basis, people who want to serve. So people who are private and shy are not necessarily good in front of the house, but people who are sociable, confident, assertive, individualistic. These are all personalities that work well in front.
So in case we're private or shy, we probably work better in the back of the house or remotely. Would that be correct?
And they would be right. They would be much more successful working in various roles that don't deal with a lot of public. Yes. You can always train people that maybe not have the experience to work in a particular industry and dealing with a particular clientele, but you can train them, and you train them by looking at their thinking style, creating a culture that they live by, a value, and you work on their behavior. So TWN, Trust Well Network, is here to help people make those decisions in terms of where do you place people? How do you move them more efficiently? How do you get to know one another so that you're really facilitating each other's success? Lenny?
It's a give and take. It's a continuous cycle of knowing who people are. It's always looking at the final goal and creating growth. That's what we all want is growth. Some people are leaders, and some people are people who just want to be trained, and that makes them very happy. And there's nothing wrong with that. That makes us one big, crazy, wild, great world. So, like our motto says, people thrive when successful. We help create that possibility. Here at Trustwell Network, we're here for you. We have created an analysis, but we're the people behind the analysis.
So, this is our first podcast, and we hope you keep listening because we're here to give you tidbits of information to help move you forward. We want you to be successful, and we want to be a part of your success. So we have a lot of different topics we're going to be talking about, such as how do you work the workflow? How do you have strategies for self-evaluation? How do you place yourself in successful situations?
So we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Rockin' Success, and let's keep talking.